Throughout the history of time, there has been slavery everywhere. From Egypt to ancient Greece to Rome to the land of the Vikings to the modern Europe to Africa and even the Americas. I'm only going to touch on the Rome era of slavery. The people subjected to Roman slavery were from all over the Mediterranean and Europe. Greeks, Berbers, Germans, Britons, Slavs, Thracians, Gauls, Jews, and Arabs. These slaves were used for labor or for amusement. If a slave were to run away, they were liable to be crucified. Such oppression by an elite minority led to many rebellions. This video is specifically on the Third Servile War, led by Spartacus. The Third Servile War was from 73 BC to 71 BC throughout Italy. In Rome, the Republic celebrated gladiator games as a form of entertainment. In order to provide gladiators for said games, luduses were established throughout Italy. A ludus is a privately owned enclosure for owners of slaves to train and house their gladiators. In 73 BC, a group of 200 gladiators in Capua, Italy, and a ludus dominated by Lentulus Batiatus plotted an escape. Once free, the escaped gladiators chose leaders from their number. Spartacus, a believed Thracian, although his nationality is unknown, Crixus, a Gallic gladiator from Gaul, and Oenomaus, another Gallic gladiator who served as a doctore within Lentulus Batiatus' ludus. These escaped gladiators went and ravaged Capua, recruiting other slaves to their cause of taking down the Roman power. They eventually retired to a more safe location at Mount Vesuvius. Roman authorities took notice of the revolt in Capua, changing what they considered a crime spree to an armed rebellion. Rome dispatched their praetor, Gaius Claudius Glaber, with 3,000 militiamen onto Mount Vesuvius, blocking the only way down, starving the slaves to surrender, or they hoped. Spartacus's men then descended down the mountain and surrounded Glaber's camp and annihilated them. That was the first of many more victories. Spartacus and his rebellion continued to gather more slaves, and more slaves came, deciding to flock and join their ranks. They grew in size up to 70,000 slaves. They spent winters in the south training, arming, and raiding towns. During this time, Oenomaus was lost in battle. In 72 BC, the rebellion grew large enough to withstand Roman armies, defeating Roman consulars Gellius and Lentulus. Spartacus stood a god over his rebellion. At this time in history, the classical sources from Appian and Plutarch as to the course of events were different. By ignoring some events in detail and reporting events that are unique to that account. Despite the contradictions in the classical sources regarding the events of 72 BC, there seems to be general agreement that Spartacus and his followers were in the south of Italy in early 71 BC. With the Roman Senate in an uproar at the unstoppable rebellion in Italy, they give the task of stopping Spartacus to Marcus Licinius Crassus, an overzealous, very wealthy man looking to ascend ranks into the Senate. Since Crassus was no stranger to military leadership, he was given praetorship and 6 new legions in addition to the legions of Lentulus and Gellius. Crassus was disciplined. He even killed 2 of his own legions for being cowards. Upon Spartacus's rebellion pressing northward, they had many battles with Crassus's legion throughout the Third Servile War. Crassus was victorious in several engagements. His legions killed thousands of rebel slaves. In turn, it forced Spartacus and his rebellion to retreat south through Lucania to the area now known as Messenia. Spartacus made a deal with the Sicilian pirates to move him and 2,000 men to Sicily, where he intended to gather reinforcements. Unfortunately, this led to him being betrayed by the pirates, leaving the rebel slaves to fight another battle with Crassus's army. This is where the leader, Crixus, was killed in battle. Again, having to retreat, the rebellion moved toward Rhegium. Crassus's legions followed despite not capturing the rebel slaves as they crossed into Rhegium. After the legions of Pompey returned to Italy, the Senate of Rome sent them to aid Crassus in the south. Angered, power-hungry Crassus, knowing reinforcements were on the way, he and his legions quickly engaged and captured the rebel slaves to bring the war to a quick close, so he would receive full credit. Hearing of the approach of reinforcements, Spartacus tried to negotiate with Crassus to end the conflict. Crassus did not accept, thus causing the rebel slaves to break out of confinement and flee to the mountains west of Petelia. The legions of Crassus captured a lot of slaves as they kept pursuing, killing 12,300 slaves, also suffering many losses at the hands of the rebels, forcing captured Roman men to fight for their amusement. The rebel slaves were not a professional army and had reached their limit. They were unwilling to flee any farther, and groups of men were breaking away from the main force to independently attack the oncoming legions of Crassus. With discipline breaking down, Spartacus turned his forces around and brought his entire strength to bear on the oncoming legions. In this last stand, the Battle of the Siller River, Spartacus's forces were finally routed completely, with the vast majority of them being killed on the battlefield. All the ancient historians stated that Spartacus was also killed on the battlefield. However, his body was never found. The rebellion of the Third Servile War had been annihilated by Crassus.